and turn on the minds to the lesson, and welcome Graal for the talk.
So good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So good to be here today. I'm so glad to be here today. I want to thank God for this opportunity. I want to thank you all for being here, the spiritual friends as well. I want to thank this space, our Spiritist Center, and I want to thank Tanya, Fernandinha, Betty, and Adriana, because, you know, they run this. So, yeah, tonight, and I want to ask God for protection and guidance as I talk about anger tonight, because it's, you know, it's a heavy subject. So yeah, tonight I'm going to talk about anger and ways for us to deal with that feeling in a productive manner. So I will start my talk today with a fragment of Kardec's Gospel. On chapter 9, Blessed are the meek and the peacemakers. There is a section there entitled Anger. And in there, we're going to see that there is instruction from the spirits that says, make the necessary effort to overcome this emotion. So that's the instruction. And as spiritists, like Tanya was saying in her prayer, we want to try to incorporate these lessons that we learn here in our lives. We want to make a conscious effort to apply those lessons in our, you know, in everything that we do, in our thoughts, in our feelings. So let's take a careful look here. You know, let's think about this statement. We need to make a necessary effort to overcome anger. All right, it's a feeling, right? So how can we overcome anger? How can we overcome a feeling? How can we overcome an emotion? So especially when it comes to anger, you know, because there's so much around anger. There's, you know, so we may think about things. Okay, let's pretend that anger is not there. Let's pretend I'm not feeling what I'm feeling. So is that a way to deal with anger? Pretending that it's not there or denying it? Or maybe trying to hide that feeling somewhere in my psyche, or repressing that feeling. Is that a way to deal with anger? Or trying to run away from it? No, I'm not feeling it. No. Run away from it? Is that a way to deal with anger? Well, I don't know. We're trying to find healthy ways to deal with anger. Or maybe asking God to make it disappear. I don't know. We're looking for healthy ways and possible ways to deal with anger. So let's make an analogy here, right? So let's pretend we're walking on a path. And we're going towards a destination. And all of a sudden we see a huge rock in the middle of the way. So let's see. Are we going to pretend that the rock does not exist? Or are we going to deny the existence of that huge thing? No, there's no way. If we do that, we may end up hurting ourselves. You know, we're gonna try to cross it, and we're gonna hit the rock and hurt ourselves. So pretending is not there or denying doesn't work. This is an analogy. So are we going to try to hide this huge piece of concrete underground, or, you know, are we going to try to suppress it, you know, under the surface? You know, we may try to dig a huge hole and try to bury that rock there and put all the soil on top again and follow our way. No, it's not going to happen, because we're going to find out that we're not able to make such a hole, and it's going to take so much effort and so much energy that we may end up even angrier or more nervous than when we started. No. Suppressing is not a good thing too. Are we going to run away from it? Well, if we do it, we're never going to get there. We may run away 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We're going to have to cross that path if we want to get there. Okay, no. Okay, right, we ask God. We pray and we ask God, okay, make that anger disappear. Well, I don't know. He may even help us, give us strength to find ways to make that thing, to take that thing from our path, or give us perseverance, to do whatever we need to do. But He's not going to make it disappear. We need to do the work together. So, what do we see here? In order to overcome an obstacle, we must deal with it. We need to deal with the obstacle. So if anger is an obstacle, and we want to overcome it, as it is said here in the gospel, we need to deal with anger. We need to deal with it in a healthy manner, in a productive way. So let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. Let's start this thing by understanding what anger is. So I looked for some definitions about anger. It's a feeling. And there is this psychotherapist. He's a PhD. He's a teacher. He's a workshop leader. He works in California. And he writes a lot about anger. His name is David Rico. And there is a book that he wrote that is called How to Become an Adult. And in that book, there is a section about anger. So that is how he defines anger. He says that anger is a natural human feeling that everyone experiences. He even said that everyone experiences often. I took often, He said everyone experiences often. Okay, and that needs to be expressed to maintain psychological health. He says that anger is a challenge to adulthood. And he even says that it can be an obstacle for us in our development to become real adults. So it's crucial that we learn how to deal with that feeling in order to become real adults, right? So we need to deal with that. There are studies in psychology today showing that depression can be a consequence of repressed anger. So one more reason. And if we go back to Freud, when he created psychoanalysis, he proved to his work and his studies that everything that we repress, every feeling or emotional state that we repress will come back. And it will come back magnified. It will come back in a way that is even worse than what was repressed in the beginning. So yeah. And okay, we need to express anger. This person is saying we need to express anger. And then for many of us, maybe we may see a red flag right away. Oh, express anger. Really? So how does that work? We may even try to talk to this David Rico and say, are you sure about that? Expressing anger? Yeah. So let's take a careful look when we talk about anger. We may have that red flag in our minds because for a lot of us, when we talk about anger, what we see in our minds is this. Here's anger. And then we see violence, oppression, humiliation. If I write something wrong, please let me know. Humiliation, drama.
It's humiliation.
What?
Humiliation.
Aí. Thank you. Thank you.
This
Drama. Abuse. disrespect. So yeah, that's why the red flag comes up so fast. Every time we talk about this feeling, you know, the picture that we may see is something like this. We see anger and we see or feel or remember all the other emotional states that can come together with that. You know, violence, oppression, humiliation, drama, abuse. So this is the problem with this, you know, feeling. We have difficulty to see it as one single feeling. It comes attached with all the other, you know, experiences and memories and feelings, you know, that relate to that, okay? So, we may remember times when we experienced anger from other people that was, you know, like this here, you know? Anger attached with abusive behavior, or anger attached with disrespect, or anger attached with violence. Or we may feel unsafe when we want to express anger because we may have received the message as we were growing up that if we do express anger, if we would choose to express anger, we would run the risk of not being loved or of being rejected. So as a child, if we grow and we receive those messages, we may shut down. Right, I'm not going to express my anger, otherwise I'm not going to be loved. Or if we have a lot of repressed anger, we may feel unsafe when we want to express anger because we may think or feel that we're going to lose control. So it's a very delicate subject. Let me see if I'm losing something. No. Okay, very delicate, not easy. But going back to the definition of anger. So anger is not this package of things and feelings and memories and experiences. Anger is one single feeling. One single feeling. It's a feeling like any other feeling. It's a feeling like sadness or happiness. It's one single feeling. So we need to try to educate ourselves to detach anger from all of these other things that are here. It's one single feeling. And this author he keeps writing about anger, and he says that true anger, the feeling alone, it's non-violent, and it's always in control and within safe limits. So he says that. He says that anger is meant to communicate with others. He says that anger expresses an assertive response, and also that anger releases the aliveness in one's true self. He says that anger is brief and let go of with the sense of closure. And it's lively energy that we all have, and it's valuable to our individual evolution. So according to this author, this is true anger. So it's pretty different from this whole package here. So I thought it was interesting to know the definition of anger. So now we have an idea or one definition about what anger is. So, and we want to find productive ways to deal with anger. We want to deal with anger in a healthy manner. So in order for us to try to find ways together to deal with this feeling in an adequate way, let's first take a look about inadequate ways that we use to express anger. So let me erase this here, and then we'll look at the inadequate ways to deal or to express anger. A little bit here. So, take out the pen. So, inadequate ways. Ways to experience or express anger. Rage. Rage is strongly expressed anger. It's violence. You know, it's when someone is losing control. Perhaps someone is building up anger for so long that when they want to express something, they have, you know, they lose control. That's rage. Passive anger. Or what they say today, passive aggressive behavior. My hair is falling. This. Okay. So passive anger or passive aggressive behavior. So the person punishes the other without admitting her own anger, right? So how does someone do that? Silence, sarcasm, gossip. Gossip is anger. I didn't know that. So gossip is anger. It's passive aggressive anger. Gossip, refusal to cooperate, negligence, rejection, and absence. So these are one of the ways that we do when we act in passive aggressive, when we act, you know, when we behave in a passive aggressive way. And this author says that a passive aggressive behavior is inadequate and it's not an adult way of behaving. So here I'm thinking, well, so yeah, and he said, well, in order for you to become a real adult, no. And then I think about gossip and, you know, silence and sarcasm. Yeah, this is anger. It's passive aggressive anger.
So, Graal,
Yeah.
is that when you, instead of, you don't face that talking to the person, right? So you pretend everything's okay.
Yes.
Behind the back, you do something.
Behind the back.
Okay.
You gossip, or, you know, yeah, you use sarcasm. Oh, yeah, of course I'm going to help you. Yeah, you look so good today. You know, it's like, it's not said, it's not verbalized.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm kind of person that tends to remove myself because I don't want to be out of control. But I want to think about what it is going on so that I can discuss it when I'm under control.
But this, we're going to talk about this,
Okay.
you know, when we look at ways and we look at productive ways or tools that we have in order to deal with anger. And timing is a tool that we have. You know, waiting for the right time to express one's anger.
So
This is something
as
else.
far as you don't do the gossip and everything else
Yeah.
in between,
In
right?
between,
You're
you
just
stay
thinking
quiet.
about it, right?
Well, and do you tell the other person that that's what you're doing? Or do you just disappear?
Oh, this is one good question too.
Like this silence.
I've learned to say I need time for myself. I've learned to say that. So I suppose that could be considered a warning.
So yeah, so this is one good point of reflection. And hate, it's strongly held anger. And then there comes self-hate. There's an L here. Self-hate. This is something very delicate. I think we all need to look at that with, you know, very carefully. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of us, you know, unfortunately, some people may have had experiences in childhood that were not that positive, you know. Let's think about a child who grew up hearing that she was not so intelligent. Or as they say, this is a word that I don't like at all, stupid. Let's think about a child who grew up listening that she was stupid or lazy or not good enough. Yeah, this is good, but not good enough. Not like I wanted, not like I wanted to be. Father and mother are saying that. Let's think about that. Or a child who grew up being neglected. Or a child who grew up who was abandoned. Or a child who suffered any kind of abuse. So that child is going to grow and she's going to start believing unconsciously that those messages are true. She's going to start believing, and this is unconscious, that the messages that she's receiving are accurate. She's okay, yeah, I am kind of stupid. Yeah, I cannot read that book, or I'm too lazy. I'm not gonna do that right. Or so she you know, these people, you know, they didn't even stay here to see me growing up. Yeah, of course I'm not good enough. And then she's going to internalize that, and there's gonna be we're gonna see a process of self-hate beginning and being nourished for all her life. And the sad thing about this is that oftentimes it's unconscious. So when this child becomes an adult, what's gonna happen there is someone who walks around carrying self-hate. Self-hate, right? For example, I work in this clinic with young women who suffer with eating disorders. So they hate themselves. And it's not only about the body. It's not really the body. It's not the body at all. The body is just the top of the iceberg. It's because, you know, when you read about their lives, you know, when I look at their charts and when they start talking to me, you're going to see that these people, they grew up, you know, with all kinds of pain and suffering and abuse and high expectations, you know, families that would tell them all the time in direct and indirect ways, you need to be perfect. Otherwise, so they grew up believing that if they're not perfect, they are not loved. And they're not okay. So these people end up in the clinics with the eating disorder and major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, suicidal tendencies. So the eating disorder is just the tip of the iceberg. So self-hate is one way in which anger is being experienced and expressed in a very destructive manner. So it's another inadequate way to experience anger. So resentment, can be an expressed anger. And then depression. They say that depression is the mal. How do I say that in English? O mal do século. They say that depression is
maybe the disease of the generation.
Yes, the disease of the century. You know, it's the plague, it's the dark plague of the century. So there are many studies nowadays showing that depression is a consequence of repressed anger. So it's anger turned inwards. So this is inadequate ways to express anger. Okay. Now that we know that we talked about the definition and we talked about inadequate ways to express anger, now let's think about properly dealing with anger. Let's think about how we can deal with that feeling in a proper way. First, thing is acknowledgement. We have a very hard time to acknowledge what we feel. It's very tricky. And it's so weird because society, in a way, is teaching us that, you know, we don't need to be in touch with our feelings that much. You know, we need to be busy and doing things and buying things and making money. But why? Why are we going to sit with our feelings? So it is difficult already to be in touch with our feelings. And then when we start doing that, there is another difficulty. It's because most times feelings come together. They come in clusters or constellations. So you feel sad, you feel angry, you feel disappointed, but then you feel happy. It comes together. So the first step here is to acknowledge what we feel precisely. So sometimes we may be feeling sad, but we think we're angry. You know, like, I'm so angry at that person. She didn't even call me that. Maybe we're sad because we wanted that person. So is that anger or sadness? Or sometimes we may think that we're impatient or disciplining our kids, but we're actually very angry. And that message comes across as we try to discipline the kids. So sometimes we may be afraid and think that we're angry, because when we're afraid, our first response is one of attack, you know? So first thing is to acknowledge exactly what we feel. So acknowledgement of, you know.
And I think since we're little, since the beginning, we learn it's not nice to show anger, right? I mean, we all the times like that. That's not nice. You don't do that, be nice to the person. So if you're upset about something, you cannot even express.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
This is so interesting, especially for women. Especially for women.
It's not sweet.
Yeah, it's not nice. It's not kind, You need to be smiling. In this clinic that I work, I see that like woof. And I'm like, wow, yes, you need to be happy. You need to be smiling. You need to be pretty. You cannot be angry. No, you cannot. Yes. So we need to deconstruct those messages in order to be true to
even to
ourselves.
Acknowledge, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So first thing is to acknowledge. Then, the second thing here.
Não,
Yeah.
pedido. Põe a tampinha naquele ali, porque o cheirinho desse negócio tá chegando aqui.
Something on both.
Smell, you're getting high,
The nose, like the French, right? Nose.
No we need to buy new ones because those are not the best smelling.
But they're
No
smelling.
problem.
Yes.
So no problem.
Thank you.
Don't be angry.
No, we're really high.
So the second step here is to look at the source. The source, Okay, I acknowledge I'm angry. Now let me look at the source. Okay, all right. So this person is let's think about an example here. This person, it's really, let's say I am really angry at my coworker. This is an example. And I go home and I talk to my husband. I'm so angry at this coworker. I have this incredible project and I have all the ideas and everything is lined up and I'm telling him to do it and he doesn't want to do it. He wants to do it his way and he's bringing new ideas and then my husband is looking at me, okay, I'm just making this up. And then he's like, okay, he's not agreeing with you. Yeah, he's not agreeing with me. He's, I want to do the things this way. I have the plan already, and I know it's going to work. Okay. And then this, let's suppose it's my husband tells me, well, but we all have the right to disagree, right? So, yeah, but, and then I think, okay, what is the source of my anger? Is it coherent? Is it something real, Or what is happening here? Maybe I'm being too bossy. Maybe, it's me. So analyzing the source of the anger. Or another example, let's say this man is talking about his wife. I can't stand my wife. She's so controlling. She talks to me with that sweet voice, very gentle, and she has her ways to manipulate me. I know when she comes about with that voice, she wants something and she wants to manipulate me. And I'm getting so angry. She's just like my mother. And then that's how he ends. He says, just like my mother. Oh. So maybe the wife is really sweet. Maybe she's just so kind. Maybe she's an angel. And this man, maybe she's not. Maybe she's not trying to manipulate anything. And this man has what? Unresolved emotional business with his mom. This person is someone else. It's a wife. Maybe she's just kind. So we need to analyze the source of our anger. We're entitled to be angry even if it's not real. Well, let's say the wife is just very kind and it's not controlling at all. But he has the right to feel that anger, but he has to analyze the source and see what is behind it. Okay, looking at the source, always asking us, where is it coming from? Okay, number 3 here. Revisit painful experiences. Involving anger. This is another step. Okay. Let's say this husband finds out, well, my wife is just very good, I may talk to her about this. I don't know why I'm getting so angry. And decides to talk about this woman. I see that you're kind and I see that you come from a good place, but I don't know why I get so angry every time we talk. And then she may say, well, you said something about your mother. How was it for you, with your mom? And then he's going to revisit those experiences, revisit in his mind. He may talk about it. Oh, it was pretty bad. My mother never gave me space, never gave me space. She was controlling, she was abusive. She hurt me so bad, revisiting. Or in the clinic, this clinic that I talked about. When these women start to talk about their past, with someone, sometimes with me, they revisit those places and then they remember times when they were abused or, and then they'll it's like a reality check. Okay, maybe that's why I don't like myself. Maybe that's what I learned. And then a reality check. Okay, if these people did what they did, do you think they were healthy? Do you think they were psychologically healthy, emotionally healthy? What do you think? And then they'll think, well, they were obviously sick. They were not well. Reality check, yes, they were not well. And then with that, they have the possibility to reinvent their stories. Yeah, I don't want that. I want something else. And then there comes a new possibility. So revisiting those places that, are painful. It's not good, but you got to do it. And respectfully expressing anger. So the author Rico talks about expressing it, respectfully expressing it, because it is complicated. So, like what you said before, Jerome, when you say, well, I want to calm down, I want to think about it, and I want to talk about it later on. So, some people do that to address anger in a calm and collected manner. As long as you're not gossiping or using sarcasm or, being silent for so many days, you're just having your time to be calm and collected and talk to this person in a respectful way. So that's it. We need to choose the right moments to talk about it. Yes. And what about situations that we are experiencing and someone attacks you? Someone, let's say they're verbally aggressive towards you. For example, in a group, let's say, here right now, I'm talking about this and someone raises their hand and they attack me verbally. What about these situations? So what I think about those is that anytime that you know that you're going to be exposed to a situation that, may evoke anger in any ways, preparing yourself to go to that situation. Really, praying, before you go in, you pray and you ask for protection and you go in knowing that, if you have to deal with something, you're going to have some extra guidance. Take a deep breath and and deal with that, because that may happen too. Okay, and this, number 5, channeling the anger to obtain personal growth. Channeling anger. Jung says something that is very interesting. Jung is a great psychologist. He's one of the, for me at least, it's one of the great names in psychology because he unites psychology and spirituality. And he says that in the intensity of the emotional turbulence itself lies the value, the energy to remedy the problem. So in anger itself, because like we saw before in the definition, anger is lively energy. So in anger itself, in that energy, you may find a solution for the problem. How? Okay, let's think about it. We can use that energy as a source of strength to teach us important lessons. For example, how to be assertive, how to learn, how to be okay in expressing our rights, really expressing our rights. We can learn that with anger. If we use that energy to become assertive, that's personal growth. Here, channeling for personal growth.
So you are proposing channeling from the negative to the positive.
Yes.
Using this energy that is supposed to be a negative feeling to the positive.
Yes, transforming it, channeling to personal growth, to something that is positive. So this strength, this energy may teach us to become more assertive, to stand up for our rights, and it can teach us to establish healthy boundaries. Sometimes we may see ourselves stuck in a situation or with someone who acts in a way that it's disrespectful. Someone who will disrespect us once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So if we acknowledge our anger, because we will get angry. If there's someone stepping on your feet, you're going to get angry. But, most of the times, like you said before, Tanya, we learn that we cannot express that. Well, let them step on my feet. It's okay. No, after the 5th time, and if you use that energy, okay, I'm angry, let me do something about it. You can learn how to establish healthy boundaries.
Because also, right now, when you let that happen, then you realize that you get angry not only with the person, but with yourself, because you are letting the person say, like, what am I doing? How come I cannot give those limits? And it's and then you have to deal with 2 kinds of anger right there, right?
Yes.
It's like, and then we need that time that you mentioned. That time is precious, because if right then when you're angry, you try to express, might not be so respectful.
Yeah.
But then when you kind of, okay, now that things are okay between us, we can talk about it. This is what is happening. And acknowledge that we are part of the problem too, right? In that case that you
But there is
mentioned.
a danger in that, because look at this. You just leave, go out. And then a couple of days later, that was dissolved. You think you don't feel anything else, but then comes the build-up. Yes. So it's better, I think it's good and bad living like that, because it's good because then you don't act out of control. But on the other side, you don't use your energy to be assertive and put your
At that moment, I think this is going to be something very personal.
Yeah.
Some
are
people
like
will
that.
find that it works better for them to express it right away. Some people may find that it will work better if they wait for some other time to be more at ease. So it's something very personal that we will find our own way what works best for us. So like Alido was saying in his talk, yes, if he was talking about forgiveness. And he says, you cannot allow that person to do something with you. You're being part of the problem if you're allowing that. So I thought it was very interesting. So yes, so anger can teach us to establish healthy boundaries to people or situations that are harmful to our well-being, right? So if you're dealing with someone who is disrespecting you or abusing you in a way, you know, you can take notice, you can acknowledge, you can try to open up dialogue. Let's see if the people talk about it. It's one way. You know, if with dialogue's not really working, well, you may decide to create some distance. You know, well, I'm not going to see that person. And if with distance it doesn't work, you know, distance. Dialogue, it's not working either. The person is the same. We have the choice to walk away. We have the choice and the power.
But it's inside your family.
Yes. And then this is one big thing, right?
With friends, it's easy.
This is one big challenge that we have. Yeah. Not if it is inside our families. Yeah, we can use all the resources that we have if it's inside our families. You know, go to therapy. You know, take a great vacation. You start going to church or Spiritist center. We can try everything. But even in our families, Tanya, if we tried everything, and if we see that it's a situation that is so harmful to everyone involved, because then it's not only you, it's everyone involved. The children who are there, the other person who is there, the children who are going to play with your children because they may become bullies. So it's everything. And in the gospel, there is one part, you know, section in the gospel that talks about, you know, divorce. So even within families, because I think it's extremely necessary, and I'm remembering our leader again, to really love ourselves and respect ourselves, you know, as our planet is changing, right? He talked about this regeneration, that's how you say it in English. As we go through that transition, I think it's very important for us to learn really to create a healthy environment.
He talks about that in his book, Saúde na Vida Familiar. He talks about that very extensively, that walking away can be your highest act of self-love.
Really?
Yes. And you can continue to love that person, but you can be, also it's okay to love from a distance. Because we're all spirits, we're all connected.
For a few years though, when you have a teenager that is like this with you, we cannot just walk away.
Well, that's when the universe is telling us
we have years of getting prepared before
I'm talking about the other
that.
hand.
And then,
That's what I thought when I said that. Husband, it's a different. There are different relationships, but with the kids, it's a.
But when people are
different
butting
story.
heads, there's always something in here that is being butted.
Yeah, that's why I said
It's never
about
about the
our.
person.
That's what exactly I was talking about. Recognize that it's both sides, right? I mean,
No,
you
it's
let
not even
them
both.
do certain things, and the other person takes advantage of you.
Well, because the other part you have no control of, but the
That's-
feeling of being butted against is an inner feeling.
Mhm.
And it can only be dealt, it has to go in here.
but and we're gonna
That's a
talk.
whole other talk.
But then we're gonna talk about this too when you know we're looking at tools to deal with anger properly. You know, these are tools that we're gonna use to deal with anger in a proper way. We're gonna look at the spiritual tools that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get there because it is true that with my daughter, I'm not gonna go walk away. No, I'm there with her. I have to raise her. No, it's a different thing. So then we're gonna look at the spiritual tools that we have in order to deal with anger. And in my point of view, I think they are the most powerful ones. We're gonna talk about the love too. I'm gonna end with that. So, but, challenging the anger for personal growth. We can become assertive, you know, establish healthy boundaries, use all of that. You know, I remember when I moved to Texas, I'm moving from California to live here. And I finished a master's degree in California in counseling psychology, and I moved here. And, I found a job. Everything was ready for me to work as a counselor. And then there was a problem with the board of counselors, and you know, they wouldn't take my license because it was from another state. So I started to call this board like every day, almost every day, and I was pregnant. And I was calling and I would leave messages. Listen, I have this license, I need to talk to someone, I need to resolve this problem. One message after the other. They never called me back.
Wow.
They didn't even call me back. You know, and my husband was just watching, you know. And then one day, I remember my belly was, you know, growing, and one day, and they wouldn't give the address. I didn't know the address. So I looked and I found the address. One day, you know, I just took my purse and I told my husband, I'm going there. I'm going to the board. And he said, really? Do you know where the board is? I said, I know. So he said, okay, I'm going to go with you. And then he comes with me. And then I get there. And I remember the name of this person. Her name was Bob Alexander. Because this was the person that I was calling repeatedly for 1 month, or I don't know how long, you know. And I go in, you know, with my belly and my husband. It was very hot. And then I get there. Oh, yeah, I would like to talk to Bob Alexander. And then the lady, she's not here. I said, really? She said, yes. And my husband looked, you know, I have been calling Bob Alexander for 1 month. Why is she not answering my calls? I don't know. Because I have an accent. Is that why she's not answering my calls? Because I'm an immigrant. Because I'm not from here. And then this woman comes from an office. Hi, good afternoon, I'm Bob Alexander. And then the lady would, oh, you were there? Yes. So there is one thing that is called what is the name? It's something related to race that can be a crime.
Race-based discrimination.
So yeah, this woman comes, you know, right away.
Well, in your case, it's race and also national origin. So.
She comes right away. The woman said she was not there. And then when I start to talk about accent, immigration, not being, you know, not from here, this woman comes right away. Good afternoon, I'm Bob Alexander. I said, oh good, I'm fine. You know?
Good. That was sarcasm. I'm sorry, girl, we got you.
I was passive aggressive and kind of, you know, aggressive too at the same time. Yeah, I wouldn't usually do that, but I was like, oh, and I needed the job. And then I said, listen, I don't know why you're not answering my calls and everything, but I need to work. I'm pregnant. This is my livelihood. This is the syllabus of my master's degree, you know, in San Francisco, and I have 3 letters of recommendation. Please show this to the board and let them look very carefully because I need to work. And she said, oh, they're always so busy. That's why I didn't call you back. The board, they're always doing something. I said, yeah, but they better look at that. You know, please. So that was Thursday. That was Thursday. On Monday, it was very early. It was like, you know, 8:30. She leaves me a message. And that's how she leaves the message. Good morning, Miss Jacobson. I'm glad to inform you that we're sending your license by mail. You may receive it this week. Look at this person. So, and look at the, you know, that's the anger here. I was angry. Yeah. And, you know, that energy allowed me to do something. To be assertive and, you know, and stand up for my rights. So we can channel the energy for personal growth. We can use it for artistic expression, right? Dance, drawing, theater, singing, sing loud.
Yeah, because that's a great, I thought that was a great example, because if you had gone there and had the attitude of being just angry and getting there and screaming at the person, you know, like just, you would get nothing, right? Because then you don't get I mean, let's forget about the concern that she had for, you know, your right, but you stood up for the rights. I mean, she couldn't discriminate to you, or even she shouldn't do that for anybody, for that matter. She should answer the phone. That's her job, right? But you use that, what you were feeling, in a way that you say, hey, I'm here, I exist, I'm a person, I need this, and that got to result in something positive instead of just getting there and screaming at the person, which some people do, lose it, and lose it, right? You lose your mind, and then you lose your rights because you just make your life harder.
Yeah, probably if you didn't go there, she would just ignore it and it would pass. So the fact that you went there showed her that it's important for you. So that is a good point.
Yeah. So that was one example.
Good job.
It took me a month, but
But in family, I experienced this for almost 7 years, living with my sister and my nephews. Two adolescents now. One is 18, and the other one is 13. But so many times I lived with her and the kids, and many times I tried to keep my control, but I could not. It was very difficult.
And this is one thing that will happen to all of us. We lose control. And I'm glad you brought that up. And when we talk about the spiritual tools that we can use to deal with anger, we're going to talk about forgiveness and how it is important for us to forgive ourselves and others when we deal with anger in a way that it's not. And it happens to all of us.
Yeah. It's difficult. My godmother, she is a spiritist too for most than 4 years. And when I was there, and I cried because I was hurt. And she used to say, do not argue. Put the word of peace, as Chico Xavier said. Put the word of peace in the mouth.
like in the movie.
Yeah, put the word of peace in the mouth. But the thing...
I mean, put water in your mouth so don't say what you're thinking.
I could not argue.
You have to hold it, you can't swallow it.
So, it was difficult because as I had no children, and I was single, and the oldest of the family, and I tried to make my sister see what was going wrong with the children, but she did not. She never accepted. And later I understood it was not my thing to do that.
It was not
So she revisited the experience. Good.
So thank you for bringing that up. We'll talk more about this when we look at forgiveness.
Okay.
Yes. So channeling the energy. Another thing that can be a tool here for us in dealing with anger is self-care. Really. Oops. Let me
Get your clothes already.
Yeah.
That's
Let's
right.
try.
That one he kills.
Okay. So when we're dealing with anger and irritability and feelings like that, we need to find time to be quiet and be away and be with ourselves to process what we're feeling, And we need to create time. I know our lives are kind of crazy. We work and we study, we have families and all of that, but this is mandatory. We need to find time, even if it's 20 minutes or whatever, inside your car. Yeah, if you take a long shower, and do something that you like, something to soothe yourself, really taking good care of yourself when you're dealing with that, when you're experiencing anger from someone else or you're dealing with your own anger. Have some quiet time, some me time, and do things that you enjoy. This is very important too, and it's a tool. Another tool here is nourishing our bonds with loved ones. This is good and it's tricky. So if we're experiencing anger and all of that, it's very important that we have escape, that we have those people that we can go to and we can experience love. We can really take notice of the love that we give and the love that we receive. So nourishing our bonds with family members, with friends, that's very important here and always. And also in our families. I think it's very, very good for all of us to pay close attention about how we treat the people that are close to us, our spouses, our children if we have children, speaking about those bonds. Pay close attention about the way we treat them, because if we pay attention to that, we're going to learn about how we were treated, because we tend to repeat or do things in a very similar way, or try to do it the opposite way, like the other end of the spectrum, in relationship to our own experiences. So when you're with your spouse or your daughter, try to really be with them. And when you see that there is something in you, like what you said a little while ago, that it's on the way, try to think, where does that come from? How was it when I was sitting with my mother? Yes, Andre.
You said try to think. Have you ever had an anger access? It's hard to think when that comes.
Yes. And this is one other thing. You're talking about a moment of crisis. Yeah. And this is, we can deal with that. This is separate from the tools that we may use to deal with anger in a healthy way. So here, what I'm trying to, and we can talk about that too, because this is a very important point too. But in thinking about the tools that we can use to properly deal with anger, being with our families, when we're calm and collected, when we're sitting with our spouse or our son to play, our daughter, try to think, look at that moment when we're calm. I'm talking about, it's a calm. Try to think about, if you're playing with the daughter and then you see, you become bored or you become a little irritable or she says something that is, and then you think, why am I reacting like that? Where does that come from? But this is in a moment of calm. Of course, when you have an outburst of anger, it's something else. And that is not a tool to deal with anger, but we can talk about that. But when we're having a calm moment, I don't know if you ever felt that, but you're having a lovely moment with someone that is a loved one. And then something clicks, and you're like, pay attention. And ask yourself, wow, where does that come from? Why am I acting like that? You may have a flashback of something in your own life. So, nourishing those bonds and paying attention of how we deal with those bonds will inform us about how we were treated. And if what we find is good, we want to maintain that. But if what we find is bad, if that flashback is something bad, you have a treasure in your hand if you're calm, because you see that and you say, I want to change this. I want to change that. I'm going to make a conscious effort to do something different. I don't want to do it the same. So that's why in a moment when you have control, you can do that. But in moments of crisis, we all have, outbursts. We may have that. Then we will talk about forgiveness, the spiritual laws, and these are other tools that we can use to deal with, an outburst of anger or something like that. So now let's talk about the spiritual truths. Because in my point of view, these are the real deal. Thank you. So all these tools here, 7, and then number 8, the last tool here. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, good, yeah. That's why.
That's why we're filming it.
Oh, you saw my face. Oh, forgiveness.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. When it comes to, outbursts of anger or difficult things or situations that we feel that we lost control, remember that we can forgive ourselves, always. And we can forgive others, right? And we can move on. Of course, we're going to forgive ourselves, remembering that are committing ourselves to grow and to get better and to do better, next time. And this is a spiritual truth. We can all forgive and be forgiven. So, okay, when it comes to self-hate, and I want to talk about that because this is very important. Children who perhaps experience abuse, they may grow up believing that they were guilty. They were abused because they did something wrong. And then they may believe that they may have to forgive themselves. That's not true. So for people who experience that in any ways, work in a way to forgive the other person, but remembering that they didn't do anything. So this was one important thing. So faith. Faith?
Graal.
Yeah.
I think, like, by experience, when you go through a trauma and you try to forgive the person who did that with you, I think it's important for you to understand and recognize that the person didn't do good.
Yes.
And maybe it was, thank God, what I'm dealing with is recognizing that what I went through, it was good for me. But at the point that I see that the person who did that, he was not nice. He was not good.
He was cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it's like not cover it and not try to make it different from the situation the way it was.
Yes.
But understand, face the situation, and see the person the way person is, and then through that you'll be able to forgive.
Yes, and
That's
this is
what I understood, and that's helping me a
because
lot.
many times we're not able to forgive.
Yes.
Because what was done was so extreme that we're not able to forgive, and that's the truth.
Because you try to hide it from yourself.
Mhm.
Because sometimes it's very difficult for you to face it.
Yes, and it's not really good to hide it. It's good to look at the situation in a very rational way. And many times, like many people say in the clinic, I cannot forgive, I'm not able to forgive. But then we'll talk about faith. The next topic here. I'm not able, and this lady told me this once at this group. I am not able to forgive now. But if we do have faith, and if our faith is robust and unwavering, like they said here in the gospel, we may have faith and we may believe that one day, maybe in another life or in the future, one day we will. That belief itself is something that is very comforting. I cannot forgive right now, but if I have faith in God, if I really believe that God is perfect, and everything that He does has a purpose, and perhaps this situation that is so wrong is only one piece in a divine puzzle, if I do believe Him with all my faith, and if this is unshakable, I believe that one day I will.
That's the way I found out.
And then you
that
forgive
it was
yourself
good
and you're not
time.
there yet.
Yes.
So it doesn't
Yes.
become self-hate.
Doesn't become self-hate and guilt. Yes, I'm going fast because we only have a little bit of time. So, yeah.
We talk too much. I'm just kidding. We talk too much.
And then, the reincarnation. So sometimes we face situations that are just too hard. Remember that, well, we may be dealing with something that was left out from a past life. Reincarnation. And then the law of love. You know, I started this talk talking about anger. And I want to end, I want to close, I want to bring a closure to this talk, talking about the law of love. And this is one of the fragments in the gospel that I really, love. I love this. And I want to finish this talk today talking about love, because I firmly believe that love is the most powerful of all feelings. I do that. I believe that love is a reality that can change everything, even if it takes years or lives. I believe that it can change. And I believe it's our final destination. When we talk about regeneration, the transition that the earth is going through, and we think about our final destination, what we see is a reality of love. So I want to finish this talking about love. And I think love can melt away anything, and it can transform anything. So according to Kardec's gospel, there's something written there in the law of love that is like this. Love is a divine essence, and all of you, from first to last, have a spark of its sacred fire in your hearts. And now I'm just going to read and we'll finish. So, let's allow that sacred fire to illuminate our lives. Let's open the door of our darkest places and invite this light to shine there. Let this sacred fire melt away hate, rage, depression, self-hate. Let's surround people who are challenges for us with this love, understanding that we may be feeling anger at a certain moment in time, but remembering with firm conviction that the ultimate truth is love. Let's surround ourselves with this love, especially if we experience any kind of self-hate. Let's make a conscious effort to honestly love ourselves. And if we find that impossible, because a lot of people do, a lot of people think that it's not possible to love themselves. And if we find that impossible, let's talk to God. Let's talk to God in prayer. And let's tell Him, God, I don't know how to love myself. That is not what I learned. And if we talk to Him with our whole hearts, if we talk to Him in a very sincere way, we're going to hear His answer. He'll tell us, I love you. So let ourselves be embraced by this magnificent, infinite, absolute, and eternal love, God's love. It will not only support us and carry us throughout life, it will teach us how to love ourselves. That's all.